Let's talk about dogs for a minute. Had quite a few people asking questions about my indicating dog here, Missy. She's featured on a number of the videos that I put together, and I get quite a few people asking questions about the gear I use for her and how she was trained, those sorts of things. So I just thought I'd cover some of that off while I'm sitting here in the late afternoon sun in the state forest in New South Wales. Yeah, and the reason I'm not hunting right this second is I brought my 3-year-old along on this trip just to expose him to a hunter's camp, and he's having a nap up behind the camera there. So I just thought I'd use some of this time to go through some of this stuff. So Missy here, Missy, come in here. Come, here. Sit. Missy here's a German Wyhead Pointer, purpose bred for this sort of stuff. That doesn't mean that you have to choose a GWP as a deer dog. There's plenty of other breeds out there, and to be honest with you, many breeds are capable of indicating if you train them right. Really, you're selecting a dog for what it is that you want it to be used for, and some people want to choose a family dog first and a hunting dog second, and others want a purpose-bred hunting dog just to give them even more opportunity than they thought they would get otherwise. So I choose her because she's one of the better breeds for indicating work. And then I put her through the big game indicating dog blueprint, which is put together by Paul Michaels. He's a New Zealand dog trainer. Does a really good job at simplifying training a dog down into small steps where you can basically follow it over a 12-month process, giving you something new to do almost every week from prior to buying your pup, how to select your pup, and then what to do when you get home for the next 12 months as you get her ready, or him ready, to take him out to hunt deer. And most of the things, to be honest, that you find in the blueprint program are general behaviour and obedience, although you're also teaching your dog its position, where you want it to walk when you're hunting, those sorts of things. But at the end of it, you'll have whistle, voice, and hand gesture commands, and a really good handle on your dog. This is the first dog I've ever had that I can comfortably take anywhere off lead. I never in a million years dreamed that I'd be able to walk down a main road and have a dog off a lead. Well, I'm more than comfortable doing that with her, and that's just because she's so attentive to what I want, and I know exactly what she's going to do. So anyway, that's the blueprint. If you're looking at getting a dog for hunting, and indicating specifically, I'm not talking about pig hunting. They're a different style altogether. I highly recommend you have a look at the big game indicating dog blueprint and just see how it works for you. So just looking at equipment, in Australia specifically, there's a requirement for you to have some gear for your dog. Obviously, you've got to have it registered. In New South Wales, where you can take your dog into state forest if you're hunting, you've got to have it registered on their site. The microchip, those sorts of things. I think standard things in case they find the dog, they can track its owner, etc. But you've also got to have it GPS tracked. There are a number of things that you can buy for GPS tracking, but I have stuck to the Garmin range for this. I've used Garmin products for many years, and I've always found that they're of really good quality, and a number of their products interact with each other. So we'll talk about Garmin products for a second. And they're just my choice. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so take what you will out of it. But there's essentially 3 different types of Garmin GPS you can buy, and you buy that product depending on what it is that you want to do. So the basic features on most of these Garmin products are obviously GPS and mapping. You can load those maps up onto the GPS and you can track your location. You then pick a device based on what specialty you want to add. Alright, so for me it's the dog, so I get the Garmin Alpha. The Garmin Alpha is the GPS, that's the GPS antenna, and that's the dog tracker, and it tracks its collar. The next type of device that you could get would be an inReach. An inReach doesn't track your dog, but it can call in weather and it can send messages via satellite. So if you're not looking at it for a dog, you might choose an inReach device, or if you want to track your mates or have an inbuilt two-way into your device, then the Garmin Rhino is the third category of device, the way I explain it, and it's capable of sending a radio transmission, doing all the mapping, but also sending a message to other Garmin Rhino devices that are in the field. And also when you press the push to talk on the radio itself on the Garmin Rhino, it transmits your location. So if there are two of you in the field, you can see where each other are. We've used that as quite handy. You hear a shot ring out, rather than squawk across the radio, you can send a quick message, hey, was that you? Do I need to come and help? If so, they push the button and it gives me that location, which is really handy. But for me, I use the Alpha 100. Coincidentally, there is another Alpha that's just been released, I understand. I haven't seen it yet, and I don't know which model it is, unfortunately, so I can't tell you. But it looks like they've integrated the inReach features into the Garmin Alpha, which would be really, really handy to be able to send a text, send an alert signal, an SOS signal, and also track your dog as well. For me, I think I would upgrade this handset to get that, so we'll just wait and see how that goes. Another thing is Garmin have a watch range. I've got the Garmin Fenix 5X, and it integrates to the Alpha 100. And what that means is, instead of me having to pull the GPS out to see where my dog is, at any point in time I can look down at my watch. It'll give me a directional arrow and a meter distance that will tell me exactly where my dog is if for some reason she's out of sight. It's not very often that she is, but every now and then she can get lost in the crown fern just around me and I can't see her. I can just look down and see exactly where she's going to be, and I think that that's a fantastic feature. So that's the handset. I forget the name of these collars. It's a T something, I can't remember, but essentially there are two types of collars that you can get. One that has electronic correction or behavior correction, gives them a buzz in the neck. It's not supposed to be too uncomfortable, but it's enough to do that. That's not how the big game indicating dog blueprint trains you and your dog. So I've opted for the one that doesn't have that shock correction, but it still has audible tones that you can train your dog to understand if you want to. So for me, I've trained Missy to do an automatic return to me if I push a button on my handset, and it sends an audible tone to this, which is an automatic retrieve for Missy to come back to me. So it's a fail-safe. Only once has she bolted off after a roo in her early days, and I hit that button and she returned immediately. It just zaps them out of it and puts their mind back where it should be, which is a great feature. The other thing I really like about these collars is at night time you can turn on the lights. So it's an amazing benefit of having a dog in the bush. It always knows its way home, and it usually knows the easiest route. They're pretty smart like that. So you can turn lights on underneath them and it'll shine a big beam out in front of them, which gives you a really nice glow in the bush around you. That's a feature I didn't expect to see on this, and I use it quite a bit, which is nice. It's good to be able to have a torch in front of you on the dog's neck. Also, if you're going to be walking around areas that there are numerous other animals or other hunters, it's good to have a flashing beacon under your dog's neck. It lets them know that it's an animal that's obviously owned by somebody rather than a wild dog running through the bush. So, good features of the collar. The next bit of gear that I'm going to show you, she doesn't like very much, but we have to use it from time to time. I do a fair bit of hunting in state forests, and a lot of state forests have been bombed by 1080. So this is a Baskerville muzzle. I put it on her so that she can't pick 1080 up. Now, it's not to say that she couldn't. She could, depending on your dog, they could probably fight to get something through here because it allows them to get their tongue out to drink. Their nose comes out through the top. It's a reasonable fit. Missy, come here. Sit. Sit. It's a reasonable fit. Okay. So there's room here. You can see she can get her tongue out and her nose out. It takes them a little bit of time to get used to it, but she also knows that putting the muzzle on means she's going hunting, and she forgets about it pretty quickly. You've just got to try and take the horribleness of a muzzle out of it by giving her fun things to do. And I know that if I throw food on the floor in front of her with a muzzle on, she's not even going to touch it. I've tried it and tried it and tried it. She doesn't even bother. But the drive in her to hunt will overtake the annoyance of this. She'll forget all about it. And that happens a lot, and you can see it in some of the videos. So take that off for her. There you go. So that's a Baskerville size 3 for her. They go up to much bigger sizes. It's worth taking your dog in to get that fitted, so you know you're getting the right one. For people in Australia, Petstock's got those. They're a pretty good product. So the last thing I'm going to show in this video is the saddlebags. So I bought a set of this for a couple of reasons. I bought them to train her so that she could carry some weight, not a lot of weight, but some weight when we went hiking. In Australia in some of the warmer months, the biggest thing you've got to deal with is water. So she can carry 4 litres of water. That's a lot of extra water for a day's hunt. Also means that she can carry the water for herself. You can't neglect your dog when you're on a hunt. Just take your own things. If you're not going to find water for the day, she's going to need it as well. And the last thing you want to be doing is carrying more water for you and more water for her. Missy, up. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Come on, dear. Oh, up here. Good. Show you around here. So these just clip in. And it's a really good fit. I bought the optional chest guard. It runs underneath her belly as well, right? And that's just designed to stop some of those abrasions. But you can see she's not uncomfortable wearing it. She took to it straight away, but I think that's also because of the training she's been through. Whatever you throw at her, she just does it. So for training purposes and just adding weight, I just bought a couple of 2-litre water bladders. You can see this is 1 litre here, so I've got 2 litres of weight, which is 2 kilos of weight in there for training. I also found when she was young, it was really good to slow her down. Right, she uses more energy up. Okay. She uses more energy up when she's got weight on her back, but these don't seem to bother her. And I also carry her little drinking bowl, right? So at any point in time, if I think she needs it, we haven't found water, I can give it to her, and she's carrying that weight. There's some other little things you can put on here. I've thought about putting a bit of my rescue gear in there, or survival equipment in there, because she doesn't leave your side. You know, if you hurt yourself, she's going to be straight over to you. She's going to be right up with you, and you'll be able to get access to it, rather than trying to get things off your pack. Just something I've been considering. Haven't done it yet. Something I'll think about doing in the future. Orange, obviously, you know, in the hunting scene, blaze is or orange is a colour that we all use to try and stand out so that we don't get shot. Whether you believe in that or not, I prefer to have something like that on her so that people know that she's a pet, not a wild dog. And what you do? They're my preferences. Anyway, they're the things. The collar, the GPS, the watch is handy, obviously not necessary. The saddlebags and the muzzle are the things that I use a lot with her. So hopefully you got something out of it. And if you've got any questions, just hit me up. Thanks, guys.